So building a business is difficult. In this video, I'll be going over how exactly I was able to work 10 plus hours when I was grinding, building my business, and actually enjoy doing it in the process. So these are things that personally work for me. Everybody is different. Everybody has different genetics, biology, all those things. So don't take everything as dogma. This is just what has worked for me for working really, really long hours. If you don't know me, I am Joe. I've hit 40K months in my SMA, and now I'm building my coaching business, and building that business has taken me hours and hours and hours and hours of hard work. The first thing I did when I was building my business is using a technique called dopamine stacking. So stacking dopamine usually is really bad, but not in the case when you're trying to do something that you really don't want to do, but you just need that extra dopamine spike to actually get doing it. So super simple outline of it is it makes something more enjoyable, right? So when you're in a good mood, it makes you happy and makes you motivated, all these things. So if you're sitting around playing video games all day, sure, that's sparking dopamine, but it's not the right type of dopamine we want. We want to build the business. We don't want to sit around and play video games all day. So when you don't want to do something, like as an example, in building a business, don't want to do cold calls. You don't want to set up cold emails or something really, really repetitive and annoying. We want to add some dopamine in while doing that task to get us to actually be motivated to do that task. So what I usually did is when I was cold calling in my agency, I would blast my favorite music while cold calling with one AirPod, and it might sound really counterproductive, but it's better than not doing the task at all. We want to make ourselves motivated to actually do that task. So as an example, I would cold call on my laptop, and then I'd connect my phone to one AirPod, I'd put it in my ear, and I would blast my favorite music. And what this obviously does, music sparks dopamine. So you enjoy the music when you're listening to music. It makes you motivated, it makes you happy when you're lifting weights. You play music, obviously, right? So when I was doing something I didn't want to do, like cold calls, put the music in my ears, I'd blast the music, so it actually made it more enjoyable when I was doing it. So another example is I know many people actually play very, very stupid video games while they're cold calling. So they used to spike their dopamine while playing, example, a game called Clash Royale, right? They'd cold call on their laptop, it'd be automatically cold calling, going through the list of people, and they'd be playing games on their phone while they're doing this. Don't do this out of cold calling, guys. Don't get addicted to video games and start playing video games out of the time that you're cold calling. We don't want to do that. But we want to do it while we're doing the thing we don't want to do to actually get us to do that thing. So yeah, after a while, you may even start to enjoy doing that hard task because you provoke so much dopamine while you're doing it. Another thing that really helped me as well is finding your sleep chronotype. And this actually isn't very talked about, but everybody has different tendencies and circadian rhythms. And I recommend searching up the sleep chronotype quiz. I'll drop it in the description or put it on the screen right now, but I am personally what they call the lion chronotype. So I do my best quality work right when I wake up. So as an example, there's different people, like I believe like a dolphin chronotype is they do their best work at like 8 a.m. So kind of in the morning times, but not super early. Then there's people that I believe is called the wolf when they do their best work at like 8 p.m. So they can sleep until 11 every day and still get the same amount of work done as the person who wakes up before. Because if they're still doing that work in their day, they're just doing it at a different time. So everybody works more efficiently at different times of the day. So you do this quiz, you find out when your best quality work is done, and then you try to arrange your schedule, your daily schedule around this quality work. So everybody is very, very different. I know a guy who does it literally 8 p.m. like I mentioned, and he gets tons of work done. And this is not an excuse to work at all. So if you somehow start doing your work at a different time, then I'm not in my peak time, so I can't do my work. That's stupid, right? This is just kind of an edge that you can find in yourself to do better quality work. This doesn't mean that if you miss your sleep chronotype time frame that you just stop doing the work entirely. That's very stupid, right? So this is just kind of a nice advantage you can have when you're actually aligned with your sleep chronotype and doing your best quality work possible. Another strategy is fast with coffee in the morning and don't eat until around 6 hours after. So a big thing with me has something to do with carbohydrates being broken down in the system. So it takes a lot of work to break down carbohydrates for some reason, right? So I find eating carbs in the morning, or even any food in the morning at all, it actually degrades this quality of my work massively. The brain fog I get from like right after eating a meal is very, very noticeable. So what I do is I don't eat until about 6 hours until after I wake up. So usually I'll wake up about 4 a.m. and then my first meal is going to be right around 10 or 11. So That might seem kind of crazy and you might be absolutely hungry, but after a while you get used to it and you find the quality of your work skyrockets when your body isn't digesting the whole time. So with like I mentioned, without getting too scientific, it has something to do with the parasympathetic nervous system when it shifts its focus from doing this cognitive task where you're locked in, getting the work done, but then the body needs to allocate its energy somewhere else. So then it shifts the energy down into our gut and starts digesting the food. So our body obviously only has so much energy to use. It takes a great deal of it to switch and digest the food while we're working. So ideally, we want to put all of the energy that we have into our work. So I don't eat at all for 6 hours. I do all my work first 4 or 5 hours a day, and then I lift weights. And then after I lift weights, I will eat my first meal. So this has helped me a lot. And this is the same system that our body uses to go fight or flight systems, right? Rest and digest, when we're mammals and living in the forest, right? If you're fight or flight, it's not focusing on digesting. It's focusing on running away from threatening animals or situations, right? We don't want to be digesting when we're running. So our body's very good at allocating the energy. When you eat, it's not going to be focusing on the cognitive tasks or the performance tasks. It's just going to be resting and digesting. Another thing is, don't drain your dopamine. Like I mentioned before, it's the enjoyment chemical. It's the motivating chemical. So don't spike your dopamine prior to engaging in effort. So don't spike dopamine after either. So you want to spike the dopamine from the effort itself. So if you're one of those people who wakes up in the morning and starts scrolling on Instagram, that is degrading the quality of your work massively, right? Because you're spiking your dopamine right when you wake up. And if you look at this graph right here, so peak, crash, and deficit. So this is your initial baseline, let's say when you wake up. Let's say this is you when you're spiking your dopamine. So it's peaking out a few minutes right when you wake up. So let's say you get a shower and by the time you start your work, this is where your dopamine crashes. And we don't want our dopamine to crash because when it crashes, we feel like shit. We're not motivated. We don't want to work. And this is what people call dopamine deficit. So after a while, this will return to baseline, but we don't want to feel motivated. We don't want to feel crappy right when we start our work, right? We want to time this to the best of our ability. What I do is I literally wake up, take a shower, don't go on my phone, don't go on your social media apps, don't see notifications and get all joyful and get motivated by the social media itself. We want to get motivated by the work itself. So when you remove things that spike dopamine right away when you wake up in the morning, the work itself is going to be more pleasurable. Right? Me recording this video is not taking a lot of my energy right now because I have read a book this morning and that's all I've done, right? So I have not scrolled Instagram for hours and hours and hours and wasted all my energy on TikTok, all of these things. I just got up, read a book, and recorded the video. This is feeling really good for me right now because I have not crashed the dopamine in the process. Next is, this is a personal tendency. I don't know the science behind this. I'm just throwing this in because this has worked for me. I find the activation energy to get things done decreases heavily throughout the day. The activation energy, I'm saying activation energy, it's the amount of effort it takes to actually do the thing you don't want to do or the tasks just to get done. So I find right in the morning, I'm very good at just getting the thing done. It takes not much effort to get up, record this video, read the book, etc. But I find by 5 p.m. or 3 p.m. even, my energy to do the things I don't want to do, it makes it much, much harder. This is apparently known as decision fatigue, where the more decisions you make throughout the day, the lower quality decisions you end up making. So if you decide the clothes you're going to wear, you decide to take a shower, to read the book, to maybe do something with the end of the day, you plan the next week, by the time you get to your work, you don't want to do the work because you've made so many decisions and you've drained the amount of energy you have in your mind to make these decisions. So by the time you do the work that actually matters, the decisions you're actually making are much lower quality. So this is why something that's helped for me a lot is I do all of the decision making the night before. So I'll plan my day the night before, and this actually allows me to not make the decision in the morning. So I can just wake up, make no decisions, just take the shower, read a book, and just get straight to work. So this is what has worked for me the best. Some people, like I said, may work better at the nighttime. This is just a caveat to it, right? No, these things aren't binary. It's very individual, right? It's up to the individual to find out what works and doesn't. So this is what worked for me. It's called eating the frog, where you do the work right away. And then I find by the time I get to the end of the day, I can do the things that require less energy, right? I kind of relax. Maybe I can watch a documentary or read a book or watch some YouTube videos, educational ones. And then it allows me for much more clarity every morning when I wake up and try to do my work. Another thing you can do is lift weights or work out in between your deep work blocks. So this is very, very helpful because it gives your mind a nice rest between your deep work blocks. And again, don't spike the dopamine when you're lifting weights. I like listening to an audiobook when I'm lifting weights, so then my dopamine doesn't spike. And again, coming back to this crash, I don't want to crash when I'm doing my work. So I usually listen to an audiobook in the gym, consume helpful information to scale the business or whatever I'm working on. And then I go back to the deep work, I still feel great. It's just a cognitive rest. So I like working out in between the deep work blocks. It's helped me a lot. Next thing you can do is the Pomodoro timer is very useful for educational circumstances, right? So in university, a lot of people use this, high school, all these things to study for a test or exam, whatever. But I find this is actually very helpful in business as well because your brain needs time to rest, right? You can't just work 14 hours a day and just go nonstop. You can, but the quality of the work is going to be much lower than you do if you just work for 50 minutes, then take like a 10-minute rest. So what is the Parkinson's law? This is actually a thing, right? So Parkinson's law is the work that expands to fill the time allotted for its completion. So if you give yourself, let's say 2 days to do a task, it's so weird, but unconsciously, you will actually plan to get that task done in 2 days. Versus if you go, no matter what happens, I'm going to get this done in the next 6 hours. So whatever work that you have to do, it automatically expands and you just time it to get that work done within that time frame. So this is a very unconscious thing. I don't even find myself doing this as much, but I like giving myself this time because you fill the time allotted to get this thing done. So when you give yourself time deadlines and use the Pomodoro timer and actually make sure you're working for that deadline and getting it done by the deadline, it helps me very, very much. Next thing I do, there's a website called Brain FM. This is a very nice website. What it does is you can choose lo-fi beats, you can choose atmospheric, you can use rainforest even. And what this does is actually tune frequencies. I'm not sure the science behind this, you can look into this, but it tunes the frequency to the activity you're doing. So there's one for deep work, there's one for creative work, there's one for reading, there's one for going to bed, there's REM sleep ones. But doing work while hearing this in the background, I find my focus actually really, really improves. But I found this helps me a lot because I can focus for longer times and get more things done. And if I'm doing something I don't want to do, like deep work or getting something done for the business, I'll just do the deep work timer and it gets my focus much, much better. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. There's some resources in the description. I made a free school group if you do want to join. It has all of the resources from all my videos and have this one in there as well. If you enjoyed, just subscribe and like, and I'll see you next time. Thank you guys. Peace.